Tuscany, Italy, birthplace of the Renaissance. Its beautiful vistas of countryside and vineyards are dotted with historic towns, all rich with history. It's a treasure trove of fine art, being patron to Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci and Dante. Join us as we take you on a journey through the region's most beautiful and historic must-see towns. Come with us as we discover the treasures of Italy's Tuscany. Tuscany is located in the central Italian region with Florence as its capital. Stroll through Florence and discover how the powerful Medici family encouraged the creation of some of the finest art treasures in the world. Get among the tourists who photograph themselves appearing to stop Pisa's Leaning Tower from toppling. See a fascinating skyline of medieval high-rise buildings and immerse yourself in the home of the Palio. Our exploration begins in Florence, capital of Tuscany. Using Florence as our base, we'll take a train to Pisa to see its famous Leaning Tower. We'll spend a day at San Gimignano, the town of medieval skyscrapers, and visit the elegant town of Siena. The historic city of Florence gracefully stands next to the Arno River. Here is where the powerful Medici family ruled, and philosopher Machiavelli founded modern political science here, albeit with a ruthless twist. Florence is referred to as the cradle of the Renaissance, during which time it was the wealthiest city in all of Italy, even more prosperous than Venice. Michelangelo, Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci, and Dante all enjoyed patronage here, and with the help of their benefactors, made Florence a city in love with art. The first thing you'll notice is the Duomo, or cathedral, which proudly dominates the Florentine skyline, in particular Brunelleschi's cupola, or dome. It has a diameter of 55 meters. The cathedral was built between 1296 and 1436. The edifice is at the heart of Florence and is the centerpiece of the surrounding city. Covered in white marble, it's a mix of Gothic and Renaissance-style architecture. You can see the Gothic influences in its rose window and other windows with pointed arches. The Renaissance influence can be seen with the dome and bright exterior, in contrast to the dark stone look of the Gothic period. The Renaissance period was from the 15th to 16th centuries. It signaled Italy's emergence from a dark period of history as it rose from the anarchy of the invasion of the barbarians in the 5th century. It became a part of Italy that flourished the most. Renaissance means rebirth, and this is an appropriate reference to the emergence of Florence. Renaissance style is characterized with the symmetry, proportion, and harmony of its architecture, plus a passion for visual art. Painters and sculptors were no longer confined to religious commissions of the church. Now wealthy patrons commissioned art for the sheer beauty of it, including the powerful Medici family, but more on that later. Inside the Duomo, the austere interior stands in stark contrast to Dante's depiction of the biblical Last Judgment, painted graphically on the dome's interior. If this depiction of hell didn't scare people into obedience to the church, nothing would. Outside is the baptistry with Lorenzo Ghiberti's bronze doors, so beautiful, Michelangelo referred to them as the gates of paradise. The name stuck, and this is what we call the doors till this day. But back to the Medici family. Because Florence was the center for the creation of beautiful art, there are several galleries that every visitor must see. The Uffizi Gallery was built by this powerful family. They were bankers and a political dynasty. 4 of them even became popes. As you walk to the gallery from the city centre, you'll see statues of Lorenzo the Magnificent of the Medici family, Dante, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Machiavelli. The gallery was built for the Medici's own private enjoyment, but thankfully the public can visit it today and admire the masterpieces too. It houses priceless collections of sculptures, religious icons, and paintings, including this one, The Birth of Venus by Botticelli, painted in the mid-1480s. It was controversial at the time because it was the first painting to use canvas instead of wood, and was the first nude as art emerged from the norm of religious commissions to art for art's sake. It depicts the goddess of love and beauty arriving on land, born of the sea and blown by the winds of Zephyr, riding a scallop shell as if a pure and perfect pearl. Also painted by Botticelli is the Primavera, located in this gallery too. It's seen as a celebration of spring and nature's rejuvenation, depicting characters from classical mythology. On the right, Zephyrus, or Zephyr, the god of wind, kidnaps Chloris, whom he later marries and transforms into a deity. She becomes the goddess of spring, hence the flowers emerging from her mouth. Looking back at us are Venus, goddess of love and beauty, and Flora, goddess of flowers. And the 3 graces dance to celebrate the season, while Mercury looks out of the painting as if to guard this time of year. Above them, Cupid also emphasizes the connection between love and spring. By the way, be sure to purchase your gallery entrance tickets online before you arrive. This is a great way to avoid the queues at the door. Another important gallery to add to your must-see list and to book in advance is a short walk away, the Accademia. It's a smaller gallery, also with masterpieces of marble and paint, but while relatively small in size, it has a hugely significant exhibit, Michelangelo's statue of David. This biblical character, sculptured from a single piece of marble between 1501 and 1504, is the original version, with copies outside in front of the Palazzo Vecchio and at a viewpoint on a hill overlooking Florence, the Piazzale Michelangelo. Here, Michelangelo depicts the young shepherd armed with nothing but a sling over his shoulder, about to do battle with Goliath, a professional, well-armed soldier standing roughly 9 feet tall. David has a look of determination as he faces his formidable, gigantic foe. Many have commented on David's disproportionately large right hand. This is deliberate to emphasize the strength given to him by God, who helped him slay the giant with a single stone from his sling. This is regarded as Michelangelo's finest sculpture, as the perfect representation of the male form. The Medici were patrons of Michelangelo, and they certainly made their mark on Florence with his help. Only political dynasties with their power, wealth and influence could build a mausoleum like this in the middle of the city. This tomb resembles a grand hall in which provision is made for members of the family. The sarcophagi we can see here are actually empty. The bodies are buried at a lower level. Michelangelo was commissioned to craft sculptures around key sarcophagi. In this room lies Lorenzo the Magnificent and other significant members of the family, including Duke Giuliano. On his sarcophagus lie the reclining statues of Day on the right and Night on the left, which signify the passing of time and life and death, which cannot be stopped. You can see Day's face is unfinished. Above them is the brother of one of the Medici popes, Leo X, portrayed as a military captain. On the other side of the room, the Duke of Urbino's sarcophagus features other metaphors of life and death. Dawn, who seems to be waking from sleep, and dusk seems to be about to fall asleep. Above them, Lorenzo is portrayed, deep in thought. Florence feels like an open-air museum. Wandering around the city, you could almost feel you've gone back in time, were it not for the people in modern clothing all around you. You see significant buildings and sculptural art everywhere, like the Palazzo Vecchio, Florence's town hall, built from 1299, when it was decided a palace was needed to symbolize the city's importance. And one that was also defensible if the need ever arose. Its outdoor gallery of statues at the entrance includes one of those copies of the statue of David, and the statue of Perseus holding the head of Medusa. Those versions of the Hollywood movies Clash of the Titans were based on this mythical hero. As you explore, you'll see the inevitable shopping temptations. Florence is known for quality leather goods. You can buy that Italian-made leather jacket or bag as a memento of your visit. And you'll see fun shops too, like these candy stores. Here's a fun fact. The Medici once held a banquet and asked one of the chefs to invent a new dessert. He came up with one with milk as its key ingredient. We call his invention ice cream. Yes, ice cream was invented here, which is why you haven't tasted genuine gelato until you've come to Florence. The Ponte Vecchio is a way to combine sightseeing with exclusive shopping. This historic bridge was commissioned by the Emperor Hadrian in 123 AD and has been rebuilt since due to destructive floods. After thousands of years, people still cross it, and since the 13th century, the rows of shops on the bridge bring them here till this day. The stores almost entirely sell jewelry, most especially gold. Rome has a tradition with its Trevi fountain to ensure your return. And Florence too has its own tradition to ensure this. They say that if you rub the nose of this bronze boar, you will return someday. And we will return later in this video. You can easily catch a train from Florence to Pisa in about an hour and 20 minutes, or bus in about an hour. It's not hard to guess what Pisa is famous for, that historic monument to engineering blunders, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Construction began in the 12th century on ground that was too soft to support the weight of this bell tower, making up the Pisa Cathedral complex. Before the structure was even completed, it started to lean. Builders tried to compensate by altering the angle of the top floors. The result is a unique edifice that not only leans, but is built crooked too. In the late 20th century, engineers began to worry about the stress on the tower's structure as it continued to slowly lean further. They resolved the potential for disaster by carefully drilling under the tower to remove earth at one end, allowing the tower to settle back into a more stable position, where its angle put less stress on the structure. So today, can we really call the tower a monument to engineering failures? Well, let's put it this way. If it didn't lean, how many of us would have heard of it? Tourists love it. Everyone tries to get that forced perspective photo of them appearing to hold up the tower to stop it from falling. Yes, it's a bit of a touristy thing, but it's also a classic pose to capture the moment and to say, I was here, while having a bit of fun. In any case, it may have been an engineering mistake originally, but it was also engineering brilliance that saved the tower in recent years. Pisa Cathedral is made up of this bell tower, the baptistry, and the cathedral itself. Baptistries were traditionally kept separate to the cathedral because only those already baptized were allowed to enter the church. The architecture is primarily Romanesque in style, which is characterized with its square, squat, and solid appearance. It also has some Byzantine influence in its beautiful interior, as evidenced by the stripes on the columns. Due to the short amount of travel time needed to get here from Florence, the Leaning Tower of Pisa is definitely worth the little effort it takes to get here, and is an easy day excursion. You'll be glad you visited. Tomorrow, we set off for San Gimignano. It takes about 2 hours to take a train from Florence, followed by a local bus trip to get to the hilltop town of San Gimignano. San Gimignano is called the Manhattan of the Middle Ages because of its unique skyline of high-rise towers dating back to the 11th to 13th centuries. There were once an estimated 72 towers, but today only 14 remain. The structures were a means of showing off wealth with these edifices while local families lived in enmity, each trying to build something bigger to outdo their neighbour. Most visitors enter through this gate, flanked by a defensive turret. In fact, the whole town is enclosed in defensive walls. It's great to explore the narrow lanes while browsing the shops selling quality leather goods. Beautiful galleries who offer to ship their art to your home, regardless of where in the world you live. Cured meats and cheeses. And San Gimignano's trademark drink, 𝐘𝐨𝐿. And every now and then, these lanes bring you to a lovely square with cafes and yet more gelato stores. Check out the queue to this one. Their stuff must be good. Talented buskers add to the atmosphere, while older residents gather to chat and watch life go by. You might recognize the town from movies. It was used extensively, along with Florence, as the backdrop to the film Tea with Mussolini, in which Maggie Smith, Judi Dench, Joan Plowright, and Lily Tomlin boldly tied themselves to two of the towers to stop the Nazi troops from blowing them up as they retreated with the approach of the Allies. Unsurprisingly, like so many places in Tuscany, San Gimignano is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its striking architecture is both audacious and unique, making it well worth your time to embark on this excursion. A day trip from Florence to Siena only takes about 1.5 hours by train. Siena is an elegant town, which some travellers feel is more beautiful than Florence. At its centre is the fan-shaped square, Piazza del Campo. It's surrounded by cafes where you can sample genuine Italian pasta while taking in the surroundings. Shops and historic buildings like Palazzo Pubblico, the town hall where Siena's government sat. And you'll also see its slender 14th century tower, which you can still climb today to take in sweeping views of the square. In the town hall courtyard, you'll see the she-wolf statue. According to legend, Romulus and Remus were suckled by her and later founded the city of Rome. This statue of the legend was taken from Rome by two sons of Remus and brought to Siena, and has since become the symbol of the town. In the square, you'll also see the Fonte 𝐘𝐨, a monumental fountain completed in 1342 with underwater piping bringing in water from 25 kilometers away. Quite a feat for those times. Twice a year, in July and August, the square is turned into a crowded racetrack for the world-famous Palio, a horse race held in honor of the Assumption of Mary, where 10 of the 17 city wards, or contrada, compete by galloping slightly wild horses around the square, bareback. The contrada are fiercely proud, and winning for their ward is taken very seriously. The event is preceded by each contrada parading with its flags and drums in traditional medieval costume. Finally, they race. In 3 laps, the race is over in just 90 seconds. And that night, there are pasta parties on the streets of Siena as the contrada celebrate or commiserate. Well, there's always next year. Siena's Duomo, also dedicated to the Assumption of Mary, should be on any traveller's list of obligatory sites while visiting. Its Gothic facade is beautifully ornamental, and the artistry of its intricate decorations, statues, gold mosaics, and bronze doors gleam in the Sienese sunlight. Inside, as you marvel at the floor tiles, you will again see a representation of the she-wolf suckling Romulus and Remus. And as you look up, you'll see the ribbed vaulted ceiling is decorated by a starry sky, as is the interior of the magnificent dome. The pulpit is held up by lions, and the Hebrew abbreviation for the name of God, 𝐲𝐻𝐻, believed to stand for Yahweh, stands beneath stained glass. In fact, all of the interior is wonderfully decorated with colourful religious scenes in its main chamber, its side chapels, and even a richly decorated side chamber for books that are hundreds of years old and preserved for us to appreciate today. The Duomo is a thing of beauty and wonder, much like the rest of Siena in general. When you come to Tuscany, be sure to come here, and when you do, you'll agree it's one of the region's treasures. If you base yourself in Florence to see the key sights of Tuscany, you'll come back here every night after your out-of-town excursions. And if you walk across the Arno River and up the steps to the Piazza Michelangelo, you'll be awed by one of the best vantage points overlooking the city so significant to Renaissance history and to the celebration of art. Crowds come here at sunset to witness one of the most beautiful settings for the day's end. Couples savor special moments. All contemplate the amazing things they've seen today and what they will yet see tomorrow. And after the sun goes down, Florence takes on a whole new floodlit appearance in the warm summer evenings. Wander past those same fountains and statues again and see the city literally in a whole new light. Dine among these sculptures, sampling wonderful Italian food from cafes as they pump vapor from jets across their guests to keep them cool. Savor the traditional and genuine Italian cuisine. And as you walk past the buskers and admire the floodlit monuments, savour also the wonderful things that you have seen, all of them treasures of the world.